Welcome to the Get It Done podcast, where you'll find me, Bradley Simmons, weight loss and fitness expert, chatting to other experts on why health is the key to success. If you haven't heard of our 5 pillars that get it done, they are mental, physical, emotional, social, and financial health. This podcast is going to help you build your 5 pillars, and therefore is going to build your success and, most importantly, your happiness. Let's get it done. Dr. Julie, it's amazing to have you on the podcast, the Get It Done podcast, where we discuss, we say health is the key to success. How have you been? How's the year been, first of all?
Yeah, good, thanks. It's been a roller coaster year, actually, for me. I've been writing. I had quite a sudden kind of storm in terms of like a health scare and stuff through the summer. Out the other side of that now, so I had breast cancer.
Wow.
And completely recovered. I'm out the other side. So yeah, it's been quite, because I actually got diagnosed about 2 weeks before I handed the book in, I think. So yeah, it was quite a summer.
On that topic, how much of the recovery is about your mindset as well as obviously your physical side of things?
Huge. Do you know what? I actually, so yeah, I was probably after the diagnosis, I was about a week away from handing the book in. So I was at the stage where I was kind of reading through chapters, checking bits, editing and stuff. And I thought I just need to get this book in now and out the way because I need to deal with this. And I just happened to read the chapter on fear, when fear hits. And I kind of read it and I thought, this isn't what I need right now.
Yeah.
So I hit delete, deleted the whole thing and rewrote that chapter for me. And it's actually quite... maybe what people wouldn't expect from me or from the therapist. So it's quite sort of hard down the line. Mm-hmm. This is where we're at. There's no going back on this. So we've got to get on the front foot, and action is the way forward. There's a kind of lot of language around not being the prey, but being the predator, and, you know, forward motion, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I really needed that. And so it helped me a lot. So I've left it in there, even though it's for me.
Because that's true, because some people go through tough times and they need sympathy here, sympathy there, but sometimes you just need to pull your sleeves up and get on with it.
Yeah,
and you build resilience from that too.
Yeah, because a lot of, that kind of experience, you do feel a bit like a rabbit in headlights. There's a lot of waiting and, there isn't this moment where you suddenly know everything there is to know and what the future's going to look like. You find out in bits and bobs, and so there is a bit of that, what am I going to do next feeling. So doing that, writing that and then spending time with those words actually helped me to completely shift my attention on it. And
there'll be a lot of people that can relate to that right now. So definitely get the book, read that chapter, and that should help them for sure. At Get It Done, we talk about the 5 pillars of health. We talk about physical health, which I believe that's my field. Without good physical health, you'll struggle with the other pillars, which are mental health, emotional health, social health, and your financial health.
Yeah. And
I believe you're an expert in those 3 fields when it comes to, I guess, your mental, your emotional, and your social health. And a lot of people, especially today, anywhere you live, to be fair, I was going to say London because I was born and raised in London. I know London very well. It's literally 100 miles an hour. It's becoming more expensive. It's harder to find yourself in a relationship these days, or even to stick to a relationship. So it's a tough time out there for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What have you seen the biggest change in, let's say, the last 5-10 years?
I think with the whole, we've been part of that social media sort of rising, haven't we? And so perhaps seeing it from a slightly different perspective to other people, in that you can kind of experience the advantages of it and the uses of it. But I also see the kind of the other side to that. Mm-hmm. And I've got a daughter who's 12.
Okay, is she on TikTok flicking through it, is she?
No, not yet. No, I am hardcore mum on that.
Good.
So I'm teaching her, this is a marketplace. Everyone on here is trying to sell you something, and trying to kind of arm her. I mean, she hasn't got it yet, but I know it's inevitable, like most things. And so my aim is just to kind of arm her up ready to have the tools to be able to cope with it as much as possible. Because I think it's a bit like, all of these things, I don't know, take when they invented motorways, right? Yeah. They're really useful, so they're not going anywhere. And you can, they improve most people's lives to a degree, but you don't go and use that, or you don't let somebody go and use it without first knowing the rules. Otherwise, it can be really dangerous.
Yeah.
So I kind of see social media as a bit like that, where it's a tricky place to be if you don't have the skills to use it, but it has lots of advantages if you know what you're doing and you're able to keep yourself safe.
Of course, because your following shot massively, isn't it, in recent years? Have you got 8 million followers over all social media?
I think so, yeah.
I first saw you when actually my brother was going through a really tough time in his relationship. And it was myself and my sister were sending a lot of your content to him to try and make him understand what he was actually going through,
Yeah.
and that he actually could speak and talk and listen and understand. And he was going through a really bad relationship where he was with a narcissist. First time I ever heard the word narcissism or the word narcissist. So me and my family, we learned a lot. And it's a bit of a trend word at the minute, isn't it? It became, during that COVID period, it became a bit of a buzzword.
Yeah, and I think what happens is these things get talked about more online. And while somebody might have sort of traits, it doesn't mean they necessarily have a clinical disorder. And so, yeah, sometimes the use of the words online can cause a bit of confusion in some ways, can't they? About, somebody could have traits or behave in a certain way in a certain period of their life, but that might not necessarily translate into a clinical setting. But nonetheless, it can be useful to be able to have a sort of collection of ideas in your mind about something and what that then means for interacting with them. So I think it's still useful to have vocab for all this stuff, isn't it? And to be able to identify when something is a pattern that's unhealthy, and then to have an idea about how you interact with it, and that you have choice about, whether you spend time with that person, and you can see the impact it's having on you and stuff like that.
100%. I guess that's the positive thing about social media. You get to learn about different topics.
Yeah.
And it can be a bit of a wake-up call for some people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I first started, I was definitely kind of swimming against the tide professionally. I didn't really know anybody else that was on there doing that kind of thing. We couldn't... when we first opened TikTok, we could find all these kind of particularly young people expressing their distress, but we couldn't find anyone professionally kind of offering anything educational in return. And so it felt like, oh God, this is... should I be doing this?
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a test, and we thought we'll just see what the reaction's like, see if people respond well,
engage
or
with it.
Troll me out of there.
Have you experienced trolling? I'm sure we all have. Touch wood.
Well, to be honest, not too much, but I think it's because maybe, this is a guess, of the type of stuff that I'm doing, where if you're not into that, you probably scroll on because it's not particularly provocative or sort of polarizing or anything like that. So I imagine if someone's not into that, they're just bored and they just scroll on. Yeah.
Well, I guess my side of things, obviously, I'm showcasing my lifestyle a lot, so I get a lot of trolling. But my granddad said to me when I was younger, and it stuck with me. He said, "If they're not talking about you, you're doing something wrong."
Yeah, that's it.
And I said, "You're right." So if you're not doing well in life, people don't care, basically. But if you are doing well in life, people do care, and you're going to get a lot of jealousy. You're going to get a lot of people envious, and you're going to get a lot of trolling.
Yeah.
So take it as a compliment.
How do you manage it?
When I was younger, I struggled. I think because I was 20 years of age. I was training. Sorry to name drop. I was training like John Terry, Jamie Redknapp. Do you know what I mean? Lots of famous people. And at the age of 20, I probably wasn't qualified to train these people. So come with that came a lot of jealousy from other personal trainers and other people in the industry. So they tried to bring me down, and I struggled. But as I've got older and more experience, I just laugh it off. Yeah. Just laugh it off, because now I am experienced. I am very comfortable with myself. And I guess that comes with age and experience. Yeah. But one thing I'm glad I did at 20 was throw myself in the deep end. Yeah. I knew I wasn't ready to train like John Terry and Jamie Redknapp, Theo Walcott, but I did it anyway. Yeah. And I did a good job. And sometimes you have to say, sometimes in the world, if the opportunity comes your way, take it. Yeah. And if you do a bad job, you'll learn from it. Simple as that. But if you do a good job, it will take you on a good path. So I've been very fortunate.
And you're able to kind of manage the envy and jealousy that surrounded that. And
100%.
I think it's always the price of some sort of success, whatever that is, whatever it looks like. Yeah. It's always going to be the price of that, isn't it?
Did you know that 1 in 5 have a gym membership but don't actually go? If you're listening and that sounds all too familiar, I have the solution. Get It Done, my wellness app, provides you with the choice between personalized gym guides, Goal Pacific guides, and hundreds of home workouts. You'll also get exclusive access to our community events and retreats. So whether it's time to cancel your gym membership and work out at home, or bring some structure and success to your gym schedule, the GID app can do just that for £18.99 a month. Not only that, we provide recipes and nutritional guidance so you can partner your workout regime with the right meal plans for optimal results. Life's too short to pay for a gym membership you're not using. It's time to get it done. And 3 chapters I want to talk about your book is, first of all, is confidence. Confidence is massively important. For me, without confidence, you'll struggle in all those 5 pillars. How does one improve their confidence?
Yeah, well, do you know, confidence isn't really something that you can aim for and then arrive at.
Yeah.
So I would say it's quite, some types of confidence are very situation specific. So, you know, if we went down to some local fancy gym together now, you'd be strolling in there absolutely fine. I'd be thinking, oh my God. And that's you know, what you do every day is your comfort zone, right? Whereas if you came to, I don't know, an NHS hospital with me in an acute mental health setting, it would be reversed.
Of course.
So some of that is situation specific, because what you do every day becomes your comfort zone, right? So it's through repetition. So anytime that we're in a novel situation that feels different, new and unpredictable, your brain is set up to give you a stress response. And that's your brain saying, stay alert, because we can't really predict what's going to happen here for you, so we can't automate it for you. So be alert, and that stress feeling is that alert level, and which is good because that's going to help you to deal with the new situation. But with that comes we need to just check out what's worse that could happen here, and so all those doubts start to come in, right?
So basically, it's how you talk to yourself before that experience.
And it's really okay. Key. Yeah, so it's okay to have those doubts. And they're a reflection of the fact that it's new. So, you know, some of those doubts you need to listen to. So this sort of blind self-belief isn't always helpful, because that can get you in trouble, right? So if, whereas, I don't know, take a boxer or someone, a lot of the time they appear to have blind self-belief, don't they? They're just, unbreakable self-belief. But they've done a lot of work before that to be able to have that. So they will break down somebody's fight and technique and make sure that, you know, they are sort of planning for all the things that could go wrong first. So by the time they appear to have that brilliant self-belief, it's because they've worked for it. And so I think a lot of work and preparation goes into building confidence in an area. But I think with anything, if there's an area you want to master and you want to feel confident in, you have to be willing to voluntarily spend time there. So you have to be willing to be the beginner. You have to be willing to feel fear and feel vulnerability and be in that situation and stay there for as long as you can manage, and to make a decent contribution while you're there. You know, so you could have been in that situation with these different sports people and decided to, you know, observe somebody else doing the job. But you didn't. You thought, I might have something to offer, and I'm going to do the best I can while I'm here and learn everything while I'm here.
Exactly.
And so when you do that, you kind of learn while you're doing it, and through the evidence of action, you know, your brain can see, I'm doing this and it's working out okay. Even on the worst days when it's not so good, I survive it, and so that builds that self-confidence. That and I think even with when things really go wrong, I mean, look at the summer where, you know, I it wasn't something I could control, but, you know, suddenly diagnosed with this scary health problem, went through a really difficult time. But I honestly feel like that's left me with a different, probably the more transferable type of confidence, where I know what I can tolerate. I know I can go through some heavy shit, and I can work through that in my own mind, which means that I have that sort of confidence that if something terrible happens in the future, I know I can deal with it. You know, I know.
Well, there's that famous saying that I like to say is, tough times don't last, but tough people do, right?
Yeah.
And those tough moments make you a more resilient, tougher person, so you can deal with situations. Another experience, I got invited to go do Sky News, and I was like, this is going to be fun. This will be great for my career. And they put you in a studio, and they go, all right, you're going to go in there in 5 minutes. Okay, no problem. There's no one really helping you out. Are you okay? You can't. Do you want a drink? And they go, you push you into the studio. The reporter is not even looking at you, talking to you. They go, you're live in 5 seconds. And then after that 5 seconds, he goes, hi, Brad, it's great to have you here. So it just seems so alien. And it can really take you by shock. And I remember my mind going blank because it was my first experience. I was like, sorry to much, excuse my French, like, fucking hell. And I remember getting my words a little bit muddled up just out of pure nerves, and this is a new experience. After that, I said I didn't do very well then. And my family were very honest. They said, yeah, you didn't really perform. But then the next time I went on This Morning, and you've been on This Morning, and the next time I went on, I was so much more relaxed. So you have to do that first experience, get that first experience under your belt, learn from it, even if you do a bad job like I did, and you'll do really well in the future.
Yeah.
But you have to do that first one. You got to get out of that comfort zone, jump over that first hurdle.
Yeah. And the fact that you've had a situation where it's not gone so well and you got through it and you survived it, you now know that actually when it goes wrong, that's not the worst case scenario, because as long as you can pick yourself up again. And I mean, the reason that I do things like This Morning and stuff is really to practice what I preach, because I know if I said no to it, it'd probably be out of fear.
Okay.
So I do it because it's good practice, and you know, it's always a pleasant experience. It's always fun and everything. But the first time was terrifying.
It is, isn't it?
And if I have a gap, so I haven't really done it through the summer when I was having surgery and stuff, and then I went back and felt nervous as if it was the first time again. And it's because, you know, even if you're treating like a phobia or something, you have to have that consistency and the frequency. So you have to do it as much as you possibly can, because then your brain, it's called habituation. So your brain starts to calm the stress response, because, okay, we did this yesterday.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And people might be looking, myself, constantly in front of the camera. How can they be nervous? But it's human nature.
Yes.
It's human nature.
And I think that's it. When you shift your relationship with that feeling, you realise it's a state of readiness. It's your body getting ready to sort of bring your A game, really. And so if you were too relaxed, you might not pick up on the different things you needed to be alert to in that situation. So
going back to confidence, I always say to my clientele, let's work on your physical health, right? Let's get you in great shape physically, mentally, and that will really boost your self-esteem and confidence. But there are also people out there who are in great shape that still really lack confidence. Is it because their mindset, they need to shift their mindset, or the way they think on a day-to-day basis? Are they comparing themselves to people too often? Do they not have much belief in themselves? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, so it can be all different things, can't it? Because do you mean sort of confidence in their body image, or just generally?
You could have body dysphoria, or people who are really confident, they still struggle to go dating. They still struggle, to go on that first date, or go to a nice pub knowing that there might be some guys or girls there to actually talk to.
Yeah.
So you can be in great physical health, but you still might not have that chat or game about you, or that charisma.
Yeah, because if that hasn't changed your sort of general core beliefs about yourself, then that will still be influenced. You know, those, when I say core beliefs, I mean when you're sort of in early life, you learn from what happens to you, from the people around you, what to expect from the world, what to expect from other people, how to manage other people and get along with them. And those sorts of experiences early in life become your kind of template for life. And so they don't disappear just because we suddenly became an adult. They're still our template. And so if those templates are kind of maladaptive in adulthood, they will still affect, when you kind of, it could be anything in relationships or something, and you're going around the same old cycle and you're doing it. You think, oh gosh, I'm doing it again. This is not good for me, but I can't stop. And it's often those sorts of things where it's so embedded from early in life that it takes quite a sort of heavy piece of work to be able to kind of break that cycle.
Yeah, because I've always been a quite confident person. Like, for example, in a bar, if I see a nice girl that I fancy, I'd happily go up to them. I think I've always had that confidence. Maybe it's because I was the youngest of four. Okay. So I grew up in an environment where it's constantly noisy. There's always people around. Yeah. So maybe that my upbringing. But how does someone work on that confidence, be able to go, okay, she's really good looking at the bar. I'm in good night. I've been in the gym for the last 6 months. I feel good physically. Yeah. Now I need to approach her. Like, how does someone build that confidence up? Yeah.
I think it has to go with a level of practice. So if you were treating it as like a fear response, like a phobia, what we often do in therapy is you'll make a list. So let's say I used to have a fear of heights. Okay. And so if someone had a fear of heights, you put, okay, what's the scariest thing you can imagine having to do? Okay, Empire State Building, going to the edge, at the top, the scariest thing. What's a little bit less scary than that? Okay, well, maybe just going up but not going to the edge. And so you work it down, all these different scenarios that create that fear, and right down to something that kind of gives you a little bit of an edge, but you can manage it. And you don't start at the top with the scary stuff. You start very small, almost laughably small, with the most manageable thing. So if it's about, talking to girls in a bar, well, maybe you start by talking to the person in your local convenience store when you pick up your
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
You kind of just have a go, practice in an environment that feels a bit safer, where you could say, "Hi, how you doing today?"
Yeah, of
and just see
course.
what the reaction is. Because it's all, with therapy, it all works in kind of behavior experiments. So we'll say, okay, well, let's have a go. This feels okay, doesn't feel too threatening. Let's have a go, and then let's see how it works out. And because often the anticipatory anxiety is worse than the actual outcome.
Yes.
And often people will come back feeling slightly victorious, like it wasn't as bad,
Yeah, of course.
she didn't throw a drink over my face, or it was all right.
Yeah.
And and then even when you have that kind of support, even when it doesn't go well and you get a negative response and then an emotional reaction, you can kind of work through that and scoop yourself back up again, rather than going, okay, well, that's it, I'm never going to meet anyone.
Because I think that's the problem right now. I think a lot of people actually struggle just to talk to another or approach someone. The confidence of rejection.
Yeah.
It's massively important. As it's not massively important, is exactly what's happening now. I have a rule, and I've told all my friends this. I said it's the third eye rule. So if you like a girl at the bar, get eye contact. Okay, she's acknowledged you, you've acknowledged them. Sweet.
Yeah.
That's not an invitation to go over. She's just acknowledged you. Second one, she's had another look. You've had another look. Okay, second, still is not an invitation to go over. The third look is an invitation to go over. By the third time she's looked at you, maybe with a little smile, that's an invitation to go and say hello. And that might give you the confidence to go, okay, cool, she's given me the invitation. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to ask her what her name is, what she does, how was your day? And then that could be a nice way to do it.
Yeah.
Because I find you could go to someone, tap on their shoulder. They're there for maybe a girl's night. They just want to catch up with their girls. They don't want to talk to any guys that night. They might have a boyfriend. So that's one way not to do it. So sometimes it's just knowing how to approach someone as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you can't really lose by just being downright genuine, and just being completely yourself. You don't have, I think often what people are looking for is some sort of formula. And actually the only formula that works is to just be
yourself,
genuine and kind. And then if someone doesn't respond to genuine and kind with kindness, they probably weren't the right person for you anyway.
Exactly.
So
you dodge a bullet anyway. So if you're pretending to be someone that you're not, you could potentially be going into a relationship that's not going to suit your mental health or your needs.
Yeah.
And we've all done that, especially when I was younger. You'd be a little bit more materialistic. You got to spend a lot of money on going to different bars or restaurants. I don't know. You don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and you learn from those early relationships, because they're where you make your mistakes, and then as you get better at managing relationships, then you find yourself in one that.
And how important is your environment?
What, for your mental health?
For your mental health,
is everything, and there was often this sort of. I think it's a kind of a false dichotomy that we were always taught about, nature or nurture, and medical or psychological, and it's not like that. And often I talk to people about the idea that so your physical health and your physical body and your behavior, so what you do and how you interact with people, and your emotional state, they're almost like kind of weaves in a basket. So they're all interacting with each other all the time, and you don't necessarily have an awareness of that of them individually. You experience the basket as a whole, right? But you just know that things don't feel right if one of them is out of sorts. So even obviously you're fully aware that your bodily functions are all interacting with your environment all the time, right? But so are your psychological ones. So if your daylight dosage is out, then you won't be sleeping right. And if you're not sleeping right, you're not going to feel right. And if you're not feeling right, you're not going to interact with your partner right. And it very quickly becomes an avalanche in your life, something that could start from something quite small. So, environment is everything.
Yeah, your environment and your job as well. If your job is stressing you out. But that's another one. It's so easy to say, just change your job. But in today's world, that's difficult.
Yeah. Yes.
So for those people who are struggling, maybe they've noticed that, or they have identified that their job has caused them problems with their relationship, or is making them go to pub on a Thursday, Friday and Saturday because they can't say no to people wanting to have a beer with them. and obviously they said, I really enjoy my job, I'm earning good money, however, I'm physically and mentally the worst I've ever been.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people?
I rarely say anything until I kind of understand the whole thing.
No, of course.
But there's that sort of, I keep thinking of that idea that, you know, when people say, just eradicate stress from your life, or something feels negative, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
And there are just too many people who are genuinely not free to make those decisions. You know, if you're a single mum and you're a nurse in A&E and that is what you're trained to do, and the job is really stressful and it's really difficult, but you don't have any other options right now, you just have to put food on the table, then there are those kind of stresses that you just can't do anything about. And you have to look at other areas where you can kind of prop things up and reinforce and strengthen yourself so that you can kind of get through this period of time, and maybe making plans for change in the future. But there's not going to be any kind of immediate, you know, you're one choice away from a different life type thing, because when you've got responsibilities, and it's really, really tough for people. But when you're younger and you do have that freedom, you don't have those responsibilities, that's the time when you're free to, I say free, you're not free, you're still entwined in people's expectations of you, and, you know, making rent and those kind of things. And possibly sort of parental expectations and stuff like that.
Yeah. I would say about 90% of my clientele know exactly what they need to do with their physical health and their nutrition, but what they lack is accountability. And that's where I step in as an online coach. I give you your tailored program, your meal plan, and I give you that guidance and support throughout the whole journey to make sure that you get the results that you want and you progress to a stronger, healthier, resilient individual. So if you want to step things up and really improve the way you feel, the way you look, then my online coaching is for you. So if you want to receive 25% off my online coaching, simply click the link in the description of this podcast, complete the inquiry form, and type transformation to make sure that you receive your 25% discount. I'll be in touch. We'll have a video call so I can understand a little bit more about yourself. I'll explain how my online coaching works, and then we'll get to work and we'll get it done. Life is too short not to feel at your very best. I guess your choice of career as well, because I think a lot of people at university stage go, oh, I want to be a lawyer, but they don't actually look at what the lifestyle of a lawyer brings.
Yeah.
Their parents might go, you'll be a great lawyer, great income, and the parents are we're going to be proud of you, become a lawyer. You become a lawyer, you go, Jesus Christ, I'm literally working 18 hours a day. I'm not getting good sleep because I'm stressed. I'm earning good money. I live in a nice area, but I just feel absolutely drained. Yeah. So sometimes the choosing the career, is that right for your personality?
Yeah, and it's so difficult to know, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I think when you're a kid, you just want your parents' approval, don't you? And so that's where a lot of people kind of think of something that sounds good, and there's no way of really knowing what the job is like. I mean, I remember getting into clinical training. I didn't really do mine out of parental expectations. I sort of followed my interests. Found psychology really, really interesting. Yeah. But I was such a shy kid. Like I didn't really, I would never kind of be the person to like go up in a bar to someone or anything like that. And then I found myself in my first kind of assessment in clinical training, and I'm sat and I'm doing assessment on a child actually, and my supervisor sat watching me doing the thing, and I'm thinking, what am I doing in this job? I find social interaction excruciating, and here I'm being assessed on it now. But actually, you know, doing the training really helped me in my kind of skill base and then confidence and stuff like that. But there was no way of really knowing what the job was going to be like or about. You just don't think of it, do you?
No,
of
course not.
Whatever's pushing you into a certain area, you just kind of go with it.
So we've touched on relationships, but I think friendships is just important within your environment, and how some people come into your life at the right time and some people need to leave, and that's fine. Yeah,
and I think as you get older, you realise friendships do come and go. Whereas I think when we're younger, there's this whole sort of, you know, friends are forever type thing. And so I think, I mean, this isn't a sort of clinical judgment, probably more a life experience one. I think lots of people maybe hold on to friendships that aren't good for them because they're old and because they're people that we've known for a long time. And certainly in writing the book, actually, I spent some time on that thinking, because one of the chapters was when you realise your friends aren't your friends, and those kind of signs of that a friendship might not be that good for you anymore.
And what are those signs?
So often they're quite subtle, right? It's not that your friend turns around and does something awful to you. I mean, sometimes that can happen. But often it's a really gradual thing, isn't it? You walk away from interactions and you're doubting yourself and thinking, do they really like me? Or were they judging me when I said that?
Or are they happy for me in my new venture?
Oh, yeah. You know, a lot of it is a sort of, you can tell when you share good news or bad news. You know, if you share bad news and you're basically making a bid for connection and support, and then someone one-ups you and says, well, I've had something much worse.
Yeah.
And you're suddenly in a competition that you didn't realise you were in. Or, if you have a kind of personal victory or success, and then you realise that person just doesn't want to talk about it and they just stop talking to you, or they start excluding you from things, and you can tell they just don't want to hear it. And that can be a temporary thing. You know, it doesn't mean they're kind of the worst friend ever, and that you should end it straight away. But because it can mean that someone might be going through something. It might be that they need your support and they messed up. So I think I always say to people, don't make impulsive decisions on friendships, because they're really, really important, right? Friends are hard to come by in the way that the world's set up today. So, you know, when you notice those kind of behaviors or the feelings as you come away from someone, just watch and learn. And you know, if someone gives you any kind of signs that they can't be trusted or that they don't have your best interests at heart, just clock it and just remember. And you kind of gather information over time. You know, someone will reveal themselves to you over time. And but you've got to trust those feelings as well, that if you're not sure you trust someone, you might just adapt how much you tell them about your personal life, or you might, you know, that's what you trust them with and things like that. And then I think once you realise someone really doesn't have your best interests at heart, you've probably got a bigger decision to make about who you
I
spend
think
your
you
time
do
with.
have to be a little bit ruthless, right? Because you can't neglect your happiness for someone else's.
And you have to sort of come to terms with the fact that you can't force someone to be a better friend.
Of course.
You can only control who you spend your time with.
I think the biggest thing I learned as I got older was stop being a people pleaser. As in, like, okay, I need to see that person, but that person just drains me. That person drains me with negativity, which I don't need anymore.
Yeah.
Are they really happy with my growth right now? I don't feel it. They almost, I can tell they'll celebrate if I fail. They're the type of people you just do not want to be around. But I think as you're older, you suss that out, and you have to be a little bit more ruthless. Your circle definitely becomes smaller. Yeah,
and it shifts that sort of, you know, with the people pleasing stuff. It's all about making sure that they approve of me, and the only freedom from that is deciding to approve of yourself, and not in a sort of a blind way, but in a way that says, okay, I understand, have clarity on my own values and what's important to me in my life, and not what you want to happen to you, but the kind of person you want to be, how you want to show up in situations, how you want to show up in friendships and stuff like that. And then working out whether you're living in line with that. And then if you realise that you are, it's much easier to feel validated by your own approval. So, you know, if I am clear that this is the kind of person I want to be and this is how I want to live, then if someone over there has a judgment about it, it's so much easier to live with than if I'm resting my self-worth on everybody else's random impulsive judgments of me. Yeah.
100%. I think I've noticed that when I'm currently moving to Dubai, I'm going to be in a relationship. I've met someone really nice, and you can sense my mates aren't necessarily that happy about it, because they're going to miss the fun Bradley who's going out, who's the catalyst of we're going to go here, we're going to go there. They know that I'm going to be almost settled down. I'm still going to have fun in that relationship, but they're almost like, I'm happy for you, but damn, we're going to miss that Bradley. And a lot of people will probably experience that. But I think for me, people pleasing is a good trait to have in some aspects, but can be your worst downfall.
And it's actually, you know, that people often kind of say, oh, you know, it's just being a nice person, and it's not. It's actually really almost paralyzing for a lot of people that, you know, if you have to make all your life decisions based on other people being okay with it and being happy with you, you're going to run yourself ragged. You know, you're going to be running around in circles just trying to make everybody okay with you all the time. And then you can turn into a bit of a chameleon as well, because you're so focused on everybody else's preferences and being who they want you to be in that moment that you're kind of someone different in different scenarios. And so when it comes down to finding out what your own preferences are and your own,
Mm-hmm.
the things that you like to spend your time doing, you almost sort of think, oh, I'm not really
Of
sure.
course. And what's the best way for someone to say to maybe to a friend, look, we're not that close anymore. I'm kind of don't necessarily want to be friends with you anymore. How does someone do that?
Probably depends on the friendship, doesn't
Yeah.
it? You know, if you've got a friend that you see because those chapters of your lives have collided, maybe you go to the same gym at the same time and you develop a bit of friendship. But, if one of you moves away, you kind of just
You just drift
don't
apart,
see each
don't
other
you?
that often anymore. That's okay to do.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a much closer friendship and you're more comfortable having that conversation, it's never a comfortable conversation, is it? But, saying that this isn't really working out for me. I would say make sure that when you go into it, you're fully informed. You know exactly why you've made that decision and you're okay with that decision. You could defend it if you needed to. And do it with compassion, wish them well. And if they haven't been at their best, they might look back on that with regret later on. I think always end something with compassion.
100%. Because going back to the 5 pillars and also talking about your social health, like I always say to my clientele or my friends, one way to improve your social health is changing your environment and maybe your circle. So if you want to be physically fitter, financially more healthy, then you have to change your lifestyle. So maybe instead of going to the pub on a Thursday night, go do a run club. And you are going to meet new people and you're going to vibe off those new people. You can learn from different people and you'll be in a much better place. Yeah. But a lot of people are scared of, do you know what I mean, being the boring one or fear of missing out or not having a community. So they'll stay in that community or that circle for the fear of being lonely. Yeah. But sometimes, I think I'm saying again, it's like you're better off being by yourself than people that obviously don't make you a better person.
Yeah, it almost goes back to the confidence thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That when you're willing to kind of put yourself in a new environment where you don't feel that confident,
exactly,
you start to just discover that you can do it. And when you go into those new environments socially, there's, I think, a lot of things that we get wrong are that focus is on, will they make me feel welcome? And you're kind of scanning the room for anyone that is going to do that for you. And often one of the best ways to sort of shift that is to, rather than focusing on whether other people, sorry, I'm banging the mic again, rather than focus on the way that other people are going to make you feel welcome, be the welcomer. So what we don't realize is that most people have had periods of shyness or social awkwardness in their life, and so can relate to that. And a lot more people experience it than you think. So at any given time, probably half the people in the room are having the same thought of you, which is, oh, I hope someone talks to me because this is awkward. Yeah. Especially when it's a new group or something. So why not take that into your hands and be the person to connect with someone else and just make your mission one that is, okay, I'm going to make that person feel welcome. Yeah. And I'm going to make sure that they walk away feeling 10 feet tall. Because what you're doing that for them, but you're also doing it for yourself, because the more time you spend in here self-evaluating, the more miserable you're going to be and the more anxious you're going to be.
So overthinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all do that, right? Everyone overthinks.
Yeah. Some more than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone that's an overthinker, what's a good way to maybe tackle that or improve that? Is it journaling? Is it writing things down?
Yeah, so overthinking is worry, basically, isn't it? So it's when you're kind of churning round thoughts, not just any thoughts, but worst case scenario thoughts. Yes. So it's catastrophizing. And again, you have to recognize the value of that. So the reason your brain is doing it is because its primary function is to keep you safe. And the way that it does that is by letting you know what's the worst that could happen in this scenario so that you can avoid it. And it will do that more when you're already stressed. So if you're kind of going into a social situation and you haven't done that for a long time, maybe because of lockdown or whatever, you're going to have that stress response because it feels new and unpredictable. And so when you're having that stress response, you're more likely to have all of those worst case scenario thoughts going round and round. You can't stop that. That's your body doing that for you. And so I think trying to stop it causes so many problems because you're just going against biology. But if you can recognize those thoughts for what they are, which is a bias, right? So your brain is taking shortcuts to just bring you information that you then can deal with. So it might say, you know, I don't know, what's the sort of horror. I always think of this scenario when my children were really small. We took them to the coast and we somewhere we hadn't been before. And as we got out the car, and I got the little one out of the car, and I saw that we were sort of right by a cliff edge, really, and it was a sheer drop. And we were like 50 yards from it, but my body just went whoosh, and I grabbed the toddler, and it's not like I kind of, you know, saved their life or something, but it was my brain working really fast to say, there's a big danger, do something. And so you've got to kind of value that as much as you can. But it was a bias in that I didn't need to grab the child that soon because she wasn't about to run 50 yards away from me at high speed. But if you can recognize, okay, that was a catastrophizing thought. Thank you for that, brain. And now I'm going to refocus on the here and now, because catastrophizing thoughts are all about what might happen that hasn't happened yet. So they're all in the future. So if you can recognize, okay, that's a worst case scenario thought, that's a horror story, but now I can turn my attention back to the here and now, where there is no horror story. It's just this situation. So, and that is essentially what mindfulness is. And people think mindfulness is sort of, you know, sitting in front of a tree and humming and all that kind of stuff. But it's not. It's really just that mental muscle of being able to go, my attention's over there. I'm going to choose to bring it back to here so that I can focus. And then when it drifts again, I'm going to pull it back again. And it's just that ability to choose where you place your attention.
Because would you say some people are naturally quite pessimistic and some people are naturally quite optimistic? And that can play a big role?
It can, yeah. I guess if you're naturally more pessimistic, you have that tendency towards those sorts of thoughts.
Yeah, overthinking, worrying about the worst outcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it reminds me when I did my first cottage and it was full of mold, it wasn't in a good place. My mum said, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. I think all mothers do. They worry about the worst.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, once it's renovated, it's going to go on Airbnb, it's going to be amazing. I was just thinking all the optimistic. And when I did that renovation, I was like, Jesus, my mum was quite right. She was actually right. It's cost me a lot more money. However, looking back now, I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad. So the last outcome was a positive one.
Yeah.
And if I listened to my mum, I wouldn't have that lovely cottage now where my family can use it, my followers can use it, I can use it. Yeah. And for me, that's my place where I escape.
Yeah.
So I listened to pessimism. Is that a word? Pessimism?
Yeah.
Then I wouldn't have had the positive outcome.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? And it's so nice to have the balance, isn't it? Because I bet your mum offers, with that pessimism, some reason. Because I think sometimes when we're me and my husband do that, where he is that kind of like, there's an opportunity, let's go. And I'm like, hang a minute. But we're like two arms of the same body then. We balance each other out.
Which is good.
And we, you know, it's a real strength then, because we're not sort of blind to risks, or, you know, we weigh things up and carefully kind of discuss things and then make really informed decisions. Yeah. So it's really nice to, I think, have someone in your life who just gives you that balance.
Of course.
As long as you then, like say, make a kind of...
Yeah, because it's true, like without risk, there's no reward. But if there's too much risk without any vision or plan, then you're very likely to suffer.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe you had more of the, okay, we can do this, but we need to think about this and this and this.
And if you're aware of kind of different risks or potential outcomes, then you can plan for those and...
find solutions.
Yeah, like we used to do that in addictions work. So you would do like relapse prevention programs. So when someone is kind of going back out into the real world and having to face all the risks that aren't in a hospital setting, you look at all those worst case, you know, those horror stories and those catastrophizing thoughts are really helpful. You line them all up and you work out what's the plan for each one. You know, maybe you have to walk past the pub on your way to work every day, or maybe you have a wedding at the end of the month and that's going to be really hard, or maybe, you know, whatever it is. So you don't kind of pretend it's not there. You acknowledge it, and then you make a plan to succeed despite, you know, because if you've got a plan, you're not then leaving yourself to impulse.
Of course.
A bit like with the workout thing, right? If you're trying to get someone to be able to make it to the gym, and
Well, this
people
is
say,
it.
leave your clothes by your bed and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, and of course, if someone says to me, like, I want to get fit, and they visualize themselves at the fittest and then take action, they're likely to hit a brick wall, right? So in between, you need to give a program, which is the plan in place, right nutrition program, right plan. But that's like any business. When I was younger, it was visualize and then just take action.
Yeah.
And then I ended up spending more money and learning a lot of lessons on the way. As I'm older now, it's visualize what I want. Is it achievable? I think it is. Now I want to plan it. Get the right investors on board. Have the right people support around me to give me the information that I possibly don't know. Now I've got everything. I'm confident. I'm going to take action.
Yeah.
And that action, you're going to have some bumps on the road. It's going to be up and down. And that's required with any success story, even when you're trying to change your physique, right? There's going to be days where you struggle for motivation, but you need to be disciplined.
Yeah.
So for me, it's vision, a plan, and then take action.
Yeah.
We were talking about taking action earlier on as well in the podcast. Accountability is most people's downfall when it comes to reaching health and fitness goals. You've got the gym membership, you've got the best intentions, you know what you want to achieve, but you just can't seem to stay consistent, so you give up or settle for little or no results. My one-to-one coaching is designed to create a specific plan for you to follow with your goals in mind. But with the added bonus of regular check-ins and communication, you will have the accountability you're missing and therefore no choice but to level up and get it done. So if you're listening to this episode and it's time to level up, hold yourself accountable and get the results you want, I'll give you 20% off my one-to-one coaching. All you have to do is include the word transform in your inquiry form, link in the episode description.
Yeah, and also kind of then learning from that experience. So whatever the outcome, there'll be something you've learned from that, whether it was a good outcome or not. And then you get to use that in your next plan. And, you know, when I think about the kind of different things my husband and I have done over the years, different projects and stuff, now when we look back and we didn't necessarily have this plan in our mind that this is where we'd be and what we'd be doing, but we see how each little thing that didn't really go anywhere was really, really useful. We wouldn't change it because we gained from it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's really nice to then, from each action, know that even if it's not the end point of, you know, success, that you'll still gain. You'll still, learn from it.
Because there's so many people out there that have the vision, don't have the confidence, probably overthink, pessimistic to even have to make a plan.
Yeah. And certainly with things like health and fitness and stuff, I think people get really set on specific goals, and then when they're over, like I know people who've done like the marathon and then never run again.
They do the marathon, get this great shape, and then they stop and put 4 stone back on.
Yeah. Or they just hate running now because they've done it too much. Yeah. Whereas this kind of idea of the difference between goals and values, like a goal is a set point and you get there and then it's done. You know, your marathon's finished. What now? Whereas your values is like a road, like a journey that lasts your whole life, but it's something that really matters to you. It's something about the kind of person you want to be and how you want to live. And so it doesn't matter too much if life pulls you this way or that way, away from that sometimes, because if you've always got it in your kind of sight, then you always just steer back towards it. And so the idea is you stay kind of close to it as much as you can. So for me, I was always into sport and running and stuff like that. And then I had these 3 kids. Yeah. And I was like, when am I going to do that?
You look amazing, by the way. You look amazing.
But it's not through loads of gym, because there's just, a business, 3 children. It's just not going to happen. So.
But you keep yourself active, right?
I try to, but no, not even like, you would be like, no, you're not active at all. So most of it is running around after children, right? Yeah. So, and that's where you have to then just have that idea of that value, that you keep it. You're not overly critical when you're suddenly not the gym bunny you were at 27, but you acknowledge that there's something important to you there. So you have to get a bit creative with all of my kids play football, and so there's a lot of hours stood on the side of a pitch. So if I haven't got my other children with me to look after, I can take my gear and I can just run around the field for a few minutes while they're training or whatever. But it's not. It doesn't matter that it's different to what it was. It's something. And so keeping that kind of value in my mind, I'm further away from it than I have been at times, but I know I can just keep pulling it back because I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
So rather than say, oh, well, I'm not a marathon runner, I'm giving up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel almost like it's a non-negotiable to have some sort of movement in, because you know how impactful that is for your mindset
Yeah.
and for
Yeah.
your confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it does. I think I remember actually when I was in the NHS and I worked in a hospital that they're not all like this, but one that was fortunate to have a garden in it. And whenever I was working with anyone who was very, very depressed, we would try and have those first sessions in the garden, just walking around, just moving the body, and because it just starts to.
Well, there's studies that say that exercise is actually more beneficial than antidepressants.
Yeah, and free.
Yeah, it's
Right?
free.
It's not easy, and often when you're really poorly, you need a lot of support to even begin. But yeah, I mean, it's just.
But I love that about exercise, because back in the day, exercise was seen for people that were vain who just wanted to look good.
Yeah.
And in today's world, it's like, no, mental health first. Byproduct of exercising is you're in good shape.
Yeah. And that good feeling you get is as you're walking out the gym, isn't it? Not as you're walking in.
Well, I always say to my clients, get your workouts if you can first thing in the morning, because that is your first one of the day. And that will make you more disciplined when it comes to your nutrition. Yeah. It releases endorphins, which is good for your cognitive function as well and your brain function. And it puts you in a good energy, puts you in a good vibe. So your energy is gonna rub off other people, and people are gonna want to spend time with you. And when people want to spend time with you, that builds up your confidence too.
Yeah. How do you manage it with all the business and
people, I think I've got so much going on.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a non-negotiable to go for long runs. I love that. I can just clear, just have my Strava on, listen to a podcast or listen to my music, run with my dog. My dog for me has been he's my right-hand man. But
what dog have you got?
He's a street dog from St. Lucia. So I rescued him when he was 5 weeks old. And he's my best mate.
Yeah.
And without him, I think I really struggled through relationships when I broke up with ex-girlfriends. Yeah. Just going for long runs and long walks with him have been my absolute saviour. Yeah. And I've never really had a therapist. Yeah. I always think even when you're at your highest, you should probably get a mentor. Yeah. To keep you there. But for me, he's almost been my therapy.
Yeah. It's just that companionship, isn't it? That connection and someone who's waiting.
Because obviously you're a therapist, right? How many of your clients probably just see you and just rely on you only and not actually do much about their lifestyle?
Well, I guess that's a big part of therapy. Yeah. Is you try to put yourself out of work, and you the aim is to. So in our training, you said from the very first session you're planning for the end. Yeah. Your aim is to enable that person to, and I always said that I needed like pom-poms for those moments where someone says, I think I can do it. Yeah. I'm all right. Let's leave it for 6 months. And then and you think, yes, because that's the aim of the game, right? That someone becomes confident enough that they feel that they can manage their own well-being.
We're showing that you've done a good job.
Hopefully. And the hard work is that the stuff that people go through themselves, and you're kind of just facilitating that, knowing what's worked for other people. Mm-hmm. A bit like you, right? They have to do the workout. Well, this is it. It's your job to say,
if my client's still with me after 12 months, I've done a bad job, because within that 6 months, you'd hope that, yes, they've changed their physical appearance, but they've also learned a lot about nutrition. Yeah. They've learned about the non-negotiables or get movement in regardless of how bad they feel. So after 6 months, they shouldn't be with me anymore. Hopefully it's been a complete life change. Yeah. And I guess the same with you, right?
Yeah, that's the idea, isn't it? And that was really where I started sharing like videos and stuff, was a sort of, I had a lot of people coming to me for therapy, and we realised they didn't really need long-term, in-depth therapy. Once they had the educational stuff, they were raring to go. They were okay, this is not rocket science, but when I put it into my life and I take it seriously, it's really making a difference. And so I used to sort of whinge to my husband about how they should make this more available, and people shouldn't have to pay to come see people like me to find this out. And so,
and
Matt
reading books
Matt,
like this will really help, right?
Yeah,
honestly.
Well, Matt said, "Well, come on then, make it available. Make some
100%.
videos." So with the optimism bit,
of course.
So we did, and here we are.
Here we go. Well, look, we always end the podcast asking our guests. Well, I believe health is the key to success. What do you believe is the key to success?
Yeah, I would. I can't think of anything that would top health. I would probably the things that are the
Is
pillars
there
of
anything
health.
within that health that you'd more go in depth with? That you think?
My first thought is good relationships.
Good relationships.
Because you can even endure poor health if you have a good solid relationship with someone that you love and trust. And my husband and I have been together for 20 years. We've known each other since we were 12. So we have a solid friendship. We can get through stuff together. We know we can, and we're a team. We're the kind of left and right arm type thing. So
well, my mum
that does
says, she
everything.
goes, the most important decision you'll ever make is who your partner is. She's always said that to me and my brothers.
Yeah. And it's the best.
And my sister.
People say it's work, right? But it's the best and most fulfilling work you'll ever do if you're putting effort into a relationship and stuff. And
but you have to work on but you have to work on yourself also first. I think there's a lot of people that rely on relationships to make them a better person. But I always say you need to water your garden first. So you can't expect butterflies to come to you if you haven't worked on yourself.
Yeah.
So it's really important you work on yourself.
Yeah. And continuing to do that all the way along.
Yeah, all along,
Yeah.
Because only people sit in a comfort zone, right? They almost become Netflix buddies.
Yeah.
Rather than lovers or anything that's exciting in the diary.
And I think a lot of people enter relationships thinking, I'm all right. And then a relationship will open up your imperfections, and it will expose the fact that you're not great at everything, and you're not always a great partner, and you need to pull your socks up sometimes, and that's difficult. But when you're willing to do it,
men and women are very different, right? Yeah. And us men, we need to learn to be a little bit more empathetic. I think it's really important to understand. That's why I do loads of podcasts to understand how the woman body works. Yeah. So we had an expert on the menstrual cycle and how that can change the woman's obviously mindset and stuff. But also I think the women need to understand how a man feels sometimes as well. So you can't. It's really important to understand each other.
And it's only educate yourself. It's only through just having that commitment to stick with it when it's tough that you begin to learn that stuff. A bit like all the confidence stuff, being in the difficult environment where you're not confident and it all feels a bit difficult, and enduring it and seeing it out, and then you realise, oh, we worked out a way through it. Yeah. Oh, and we're out the other side and we're still going. So
well, amazing. We've run out of time, unfortunately. Nice. Honestly, could have done another 2 hours.
A nice comfy sofa.
It's comfy, isn't it? Yeah. I know, it's gone so quick. Where can people find the book? Because I think everyone needs to read this.
Yeah, any good bookshops, or get on your phone, go straight to Amazon. That's it.
Because you are a best-selling author, which is congratulations.
Yeah, the first book sold 1 million copies, which is insane. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. So hopefully this is going to do even better.
Yeah, the first one was kind of tools that you can learn to see improvement over time, whereas this is that sort of like when you're struggling in the moment, it's a bit of a pep talk from me kind of thing to help get through this sort of emotion when you're trying to work out which way is up.
I'm definitely going to be reading this. And for those listening to, get your hands on the book. Buy as a Christmas present, or I think this might be coming out after Christmas, isn't it? Okay, so ignore that.
You can pre-order it.
Yeah, pre-order it. But I'm really excited to read this. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Cheers.
And we'll do it again.
Thank you.